Good day to all of you. Thank you, Cebu ITBPM organization, for having me here today. It is indeed a great honor and an absolute privilege to be a part of this event, sharing the stage with leaders of the tech industry. Think we went back and forth on what I should include in the session, given my background as researcher at NASCOM, where I cover emerging technologies in detail. But what we ultimately thought would be interesting to this audience was around the topic of building Cebu as a high value added services destination through learnings from NASCOM's own 33-year-old journey. So I will present for the benefit of those who do not know us a quick introduction about NASCOM, followed by an overview of the Indian tech industry. I will also cover India's evolving value proposition and then focus on India's tech journey as enabled through NASCOM. I will also touch upon NASCOM's growth playbook, learnings or principles that we have adhered to aid India's tech journey. I will close with a view of the megatrends impacting tech services in the next decade and what kind of opportunities it presents to countries such as India and Philippines. And given the learnings from NASCOM's journey so far, what Cebu can do to grow in high value added services. A quick recap about NASCOM. NASCOM is a not-for-profit industry organization, apex body for the $194 billion IT/BPM industry in India. NASCOM's members, 3,100, constitute almost 90% of industry's revenue and have enabled the association to spearhead initiatives at a local, national, and global level. NASCOM's mission is to help the technology products and services industry in India to be trustworthy and innovative across the world. NASCOM is focused on building the architecture integral to the development of the tech sector in India, opening new markets, building India as a global technology talent hub, and developing overall technology ecosystem, policy, cybersecurity, infrastructure, innovation, CSR, diversity, market development, ease of doing business, creating the overall industry narrative are key priorities for NASCOM. The Indian technology services industry grew at an annual rate of about 10% in the last decade, outpacing the 3 to 4% growth of the global tech industry. Providers have capitalized on India's innate strength in technical talent. The country produces more than 2 million technical graduates every year, and the cost of each full-time equivalent employee in India lower than most countries. These talent advantages draw companies from around the world. Finally, a strong track record of digital execution has driven outsized growth, with Indian providers growing thrice as fast as global counterparts. The industry's accelerated growth in the decade meant it became a prime driver of the India's economy. 4.5 million jobs, 16 million if you include indirect jobs, over 20,000 companies, 12,500 tech startups, 53 unicorns, 1,300 plus GCCs that employ 1.3 million people themselves and account for a large share of India's FDI and services export and almost 8% relative to India's total GDP. So that's a synopsis of the size of the industry. The unique feature about India's tech industry is its diversity. If you look at the different buckets that constitute the Indian industry, each bucket is about $10 billion plus, which includes IT services, software products, BPM, and engineering, right? And it's interesting to note that India has a flourishing local provider base. Indian or India headquartered companies, they account for almost two-thirds of India's revenue. India's 1.4 billion people and $2.7 trillion economy also presents a large domestic tech market, almost $45 billion. And almost a third of India's revenues today come from digital services that includes AI, cybersecurity, IoT, analytics, cloud, robotics, etc. This is higher than what we had expected actually. We do an industry crystal ball gazing exercise every 5 years with McKinsey. And when we did it in 2015, we had projected 20 to 25% of Indian industry revenues coming from digital by 2020. But we have actually beaten our own expectations, or rather, the industry has evolved faster than what we expected it to. Indian tech industry is racing up the high value added services curve. But you actually don't get to move up the value chain without upgrading your value proposition. India's tech advantage in the new normal is a combination of time-tested traditional pillars and a set of emerging levers that we believe will catapult India's brand to a much stronger position globally. If you look at the traditional levers, there is continued focus on optimal cost efficiency. India continues to remain one of the lowest cost countries to deliver tech services. India has unparalleled human capital. India has become the digital talent nation to the world. One of the largest private sector employer in India, employ over 4.47 million talent, out of which about 1.17 million are digitally skilled. So 1 out of 4 tech employees in India are digitally skilled. And this digital skill talent is expected to grow at a CAGR of about 28% over the next 4 years. India has a very diverse and mature ecosystem with over 20,000 players in its landscape. India's physical and digital infrastructure landscape is big, driven by government's massive thrust on investments and infrastructure development. There's a huge domestic market that we have already talked about, and government has been a key enabler in driving India's growth in this sector through supportive policy interventions. Now, what are the new levers that we believe are India's value proposition? The new levers are around catalyzing innovation for impact, making it, India has now made it to the top 50. India now ranks about 48th in the Global Innovation Index. Second is data and digital, the two dominant Ds behind the tech firms consistently strengthening their digital capabilities, adopting deep tech solutions, focusing on usage and impact of AI, cybersecurity, IoT, etc. The third is leadership, trust, and culture, nurturing a scalable, secure, and collaborative environment. Firms with the support of the government is relentlessly working to build trust through transparency and nurturing our inherent leadership strengths. Fourth, robust business delivery models. Blended work models are gaining traction. Emergence of decentralized distributed workforce during the pandemic has enabled businesses to work as usual as well as enhance customer and employee engagements. Last is the emergence of the modern tech-savvy Indian enterprise that we believe will position India as one of the leaders in the emerging new world order. The foundation of this enterprise is built on trust, diverse digital talent, people-first innovation, responsible and ethical use of technology and governance, agility and resilience. So these are the new value proposition levers for India. If you look at India's tech journey as enabled through NASSCOM, NASSCOM was established in 1988, and then NASSCOM worked hard to drive the creation of STPI, the Software Technology Parks of India, in 1991, and the telecom industry redirection also happened. Then NASSCOM launched the first NASSCOM McKinsey report in 1998, which set a very ambitious target, a goal of about 10x growth in the next 10 years. The NASSCOM BPM Forum was also launched in 1998. If you look at 2005, as the industry progressed, the SEZ, the Special Economic Zone Act, was introduced. NASSCOM launched its engineering forum. NASSCOM also launched something called as the NSR database, National Security Registry Database. And then the NASSCOM Foundation was also launched sometime in that period. In 2008, the global financial crisis hit us, but then at the same time, NASSCOM established DSCI, Data Science Council of India. NASSCOM also created Emerge 50 and Vision 2020 initiative, which focused on how the next 10 years will look like. NASSCOM also launched the GCC and the Global Trade Initiative at that point. In 2010-2011, NASSCOM launched the ITES Sector Skill Council and the Software Products Initiative. In 2013, NASSCOM launched the 10,000 Startups Program, which focused on creating startups all across the country. In 2015, NASSCOM launched the Perspective 2025 vision. So NASSCOM has always done this 5-year, 10-year visioning exercise. So at 2015, we launched the 2025 vision. NASSCOM then started moving towards digital. India also launched something called as the Digital India Initiative, which tried to build digital technologies in India. NASSCOM launched the IoT Center of Excellence and followed it up with the AI Center of Excellence initiative. As we started moving towards more and more digital skills, NASSCOM realized that skilling becomes very important for the country. And we launched NASSCOM Future Skills in 2018, which aimed at creating 2 million new digital skilled employees in the industry. In 2021, we saw OSP reforms, COVID-19 impact happened, and what NASSCOM also did was launching the NASSCOM Future Skills Prime, which actually opened up the Future Skills Initiative to all people in the country. So in a way, you've seen NASSCOM evolve throughout the last 20, 30 years across different initiatives as the industry grew. So how does it all kind of crystallize itself into learnings for any region, any country aspiring to move up the value chain? There are 10 key growth strategies that I would like to bring up from NASSCOM's 33-year-old journey so far. First, build a very innovative approach to address challenges. In the early days of the tech industry growing in India, NASSCOM hardened its stance on software piracy with innovative print and media campaigns. One of them even had Devang Mehta, a past president, riding an elephant into Nehru Place, a hub for software sales in India, and crushing CDs of pirated software. The second principle is, how India's value proposition largely centered around cost to start with. But as we discussed earlier, how can focused action help change the narrative? So NASSCOM managed to move the discussion from cost to talent, innovation, data and digital trust, new business models, leadership and culture. So new value levers we were able to build into the industry narrative. The third was how to position NASSCOM in key growth areas. With telecom liberalization, many new opportunities opened up in the tech services space. NASSCOM came up with innovative campaigns like Roti Kapda Makan Bandwidth, which translates into food, clothing, housing, and bandwidth, which brought out the importance of internet today in today's world by equating it to essentials such as food, clothing, and housing. Fourth, having an audacious goal always helps. The NASSCOM McKinsey report in 1998 set a $50 billion target for the software exports industry in India. At that time, India was doing less than $5 billion, and the aim for 10x growth over 10 years was a stupendous target. Many people did not believe it to be possible. But you know what? We actually touched the $50 billion mark in 2009, 1 year beyond our projections. And that too because of the global financial services crisis that happened in 2008. Had that not happened, we would have probably met our target. Similar exercises happened in 2008 and 2015, similar 10-year crystal ball gazing exercises. And both times we were on target with the projections, give or take a few billion here or there. Fifth, how do we constantly focus on building and sustaining the brand? NASSCOM took on the effort to differentiate itself through its events, research, and multiple initiatives. The NASSCOM Technology Leadership Forum, the NASSCOM Product Conclave, the Engineering Conclave, the GCC Summit, NASSCOM Annual Technology Conference, Experience AI, Cloud Summit, CEO Summit, Annual Strategic Review, the NASSCOM McKinsey Report. These are globally recognized brands in the technology industry today, whether it be events or it be research documents. And NASSCOM has worked hard to make that happen. Sixth, how do you grow in adjacent areas? We talked about India's diverse portfolio. This has been possible because the Indian tech services industry has been able to move into adjacent areas. What started with IT services industry only quickly expanded to include BPM and then engineering, followed by IT software products, SaaS, and other digital services. So moving into adjacent areas was a trend that India saw. Seventh, how do you identify the right inflection point? How do you look at upcoming trends and launch initiatives to tag on to the trend? For example, the NASSCOM 10,000 Startups Initiative, which NASSCOM launched in early 2013 in partnership with key industry players, with the aim to have 10,000 funded tech startups by 2020. This was a symbol of public-private partnership where NASSCOM tied up with various state governments in India and set up a string of incubators across the country, allowing startups to flourish by giving them space to operate in and access to mentorship, funding, and other support from NASSCOM stakeholder community. Similarly, the NASSCOM Future Skills Initiative was set up with a mandate to train over 2 million technology employees in digital skills. NASSCOM worked with the Government of India to expand that further to include digital skilling for even non-tech firms and freshers out of college, bumping up the target to 4 million people. Today, India has 53 unicorns, and that is a great testament to the startup initiative that NASSCOM has driven all across the country. Eighth, build high impact initiatives that create a difference. If you look at NASSCOM, we have the CSR program that includes NASSCOM Foundation, which is focused on social innovation and digital literacy. We have the NASSCOM Skills Initiative that includes NAC and NACTech, NASSCOM Academy of Competence, and NASSCOM Academy of Competence in the tech sector. Then the Sector Skill Council, Future Skills, and Future Skills Prime. Security focused initiatives such as NSR and Data Science, Data Security Council of India, and innovation initiatives such as COE, IoT, and AI, NASSCOM Industry Partnership Program for startups, etc. Ninth, how do you lead with proactive support in terms of crisis? Every country encounters global and local crises such as natural disasters, cyclones, earthquakes, geopolitical issues such as visas, policy, regulatory issues. How do you take the lead in addressing them? How do you bring the industry, regional or global together? NASSCOM has encountered many such issues and has worked to take a very proactive approach to such crisis scenarios. Last, relationships matter. Forging strong connects with stakeholders create a wide ownership of objectives. NASSCOM has been able to bring industry members to compete as well as collaborate fiercely. I mean, if you look at the strategic initiative, typical strategic initiative in NASSCOM, there's a process, sometimes elections to select the right candidates. Then we get the selected members together to thrash out our goals and objectives of the initiative, further break it down into timelines and themes, get individual leaders to own specific themes, and let them work their own entrepreneurial manner to drive and achieve the overall bigger picture. Most trade bodies operate in a similar manner. The difference can be passion, skill, and impact. Um, as we enter a new decade, we see five megatrends for the technology industry. First, in the decade ahead, as organizations adopt digitally enabled business models and launch enterprise wide digital transformations, global enterprise technology intensity, technology spending as a percentage of GDP, is expected to increase by 200 basis points. The growth of enterprise technology intensity in the next decade will offer growth opportunities for service providers who can adapt to shift in supply and demand and tune their sales offerings and delivery models to capture this incremental tech demand. Second trend, ecosystems, platforms where users can meet a range of needs are today blurring boundaries across industries. Ecosystem leaders that are creating disproportionate value today. By plugging into these ecosystems, companies can connect with new customers, gather data, insights on customer behavior, and improving their business processes. Globally, stock markets are rewarding ecosystem players with massive market cap in developed and emerging markets alike. Amazon, Apple, Microsoft, Alibaba, Facebook. These are great examples of ecosystems. As noted, digital adoption has increased the prevalence of direct to stakeholder models where enterprises forge technology enabled relationships with customers, partners, specialists, businesses, and other stakeholders. The shift to direct to customer business models is underway across sectors as companies rely heavily on digital channels to acquire customers, making transactions, and handle service requests. About 2 billion people today now use digital banking services, for example, and roughly 85% of customer banking interactions are now digital. We expect DTX penetration, the share of sales in digital channels, to increase significantly by 2025 and influence technology spending priorities across verticals. Technology players who enabled building creation of ecosystem for their clients and creating the connect with their customers directly, the DTX model, will actually enable this trend and create business opportunities. Third, we expect global enterprise technology services spending to grow at an average of about 5% every year to reach USD 1.3 trillion annually by 2025. If we include cloud consumption, this market is expected to grow at about 8 to 9% and reach USD 1.8 trillion in the next 5 years. Digital and cloud spending is expected to nearly double over the next 5 years, reaching 600 to 700 billion annually by 2025. Almost half of the incremental spending over the next 5 years is likely to come from data and analytics, AI, cloud infrastructure, platform services, and cloud application services. On the other hand, traditional technology services is likely to decline from USD 650 billion to about 500 billion by 2025, a decline of about 25 to 30%. More than 85% of this decline in traditional spend should come from infrastructure managed services. Other sectors such as application development, maintenance, and even consulting will also decline to a lesser extent. BPM is expected to increase slightly over this period by about 4 to 6% every year. Fourth point being that the next decade will likely see a significant rise in the competitive intensity of the technology services industry, with emergence of four new categories of competitors as lines between services and other tech value pools actually blur. First would be the hyperscalers in the cloud business, include AWS, Azure, Google Cloud. I mean, these guys will scale up. The second category would be next generation SaaS players who are disrupting the traditional way of creating and delivering software. Third would be digital specialists attracting specific revenue pools. And the fourth would be large infrastructure players migrating to services led offerings. We expect hyperscalers and SaaS players to capture or influence nearly 50% of future technology services in the years ahead. The last trend would be around innovating on the operating model and winning the war for next gen talent. How do you define the next normal for delivery? How do you include home shoring, near shoring, gig workforce, automation, work from home, all this put together to create the new model for talent? So these are five mega trends that we believe will influence tech spending. Um, now that we have gone through all this, how do I apply this to Cebu's unique needs? First is, how do you build yourself as a high value destination? The first point would be to identify your industry positioning in the new growth areas. Technology services sector is set for massive change in the next 5 years. So what are your strengths in these new areas? What are you good at? What are the adjacent markets that you can expand to based on your strengths? How do these opportunities look like? How lucrative are they? What do you need to achieve them? Are there any role models to follow? Second would be, how do you develop your talent model basis your industry positioning? Look, we all know that talent is absolutely critical to grow in the services sector. How are you placed in terms of talent for these opportunities as a trade body? What would you need to do to start an initiative to grow your talent in your target markets? Who are the other stakeholders to be involved in this? How do you get the industry behind a large scale skilling initiative? Funding, tech platform, participation, incentivization, recognition, these are all questions that need to be addressed. Are there examples available that you can strive to emulate? The third would be to prepare for the future of work. The way of work is changing faster than we think. Working from anywhere, gig, culture, innovation, all these concepts will undergo a sea change as companies come back to work post COVID. How do you adjust and take the lead in providing leadership on these topics to your clients? Fourth, how do you encourage local entrepreneurship? MNCs and GCCs contribute immensely in building any tech delivery location, but building a strong domestic industry is also key to market growth and also build the innovation focus. So, what startup programs to initiate? How to promote local entrepreneurship? How can you make a mid-sized player to a big player? How can you enable a small company into a mid-sized company? Last but not the least, how can you build partnerships? How do you build partnerships with client countries, countries from where you can learn new ways of tech delivery? How do you support hub and spoke models? How do you give benefits to partner countries? Technology is one sector that can and is breaking political boundaries. How do you become a part of this movement and integrate yourself into more technology value chains? Every future ready organization today will depend more and more on technology for all their needs. It is up to technology providers to handle this transformation in the next few years. We are at the cusp of a new technology upcycle. Countries such as India and Philippines have a massive role to play in enabling the tech journeys of customer and enterprises. This is all I had to share. Hope this was useful and interesting. I once again thank the organizations for the opportunity to share my thoughts on this platform. I now look forward to the panel discussion. Feel free to ask questions on the topic. Thank you.